Would you be the jerk for exposing that your husband is cheating with their first cousin? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend to tell me what flavor of smoothie she wanted? I, 24-year-old male, stopped on my way home to pick up a smoothie for my 23-year-old female girlfriend Evangeline. She's pregnant and is craving smoothies, so I thought it would be a nice surprise for her. She always drinks the strawberry banana smoothie, so that's what I got for her. But when I got home and gave it to her, she didn't want it. She said that she doesn't feel like bananas and asked me to get her a different flavor. I asked her what kind she wanted, and she said she didn't know. I told her that I need to know what flavor. Evangeline said, "Just get me what I like." And I told her that I don't know what flavor she likes other than strawberry banana. She started to get frustrated and said that I know the other one she likes. I had zero clue. She's never asked me for anything other than strawberry banana. I repeated myself multiple times that I don't know what she wants, and she started to cry and said that I was pressuring her too much over a smoothie. She's been in a bad mood ever since, has barely spoken to me all evening. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend to tell me what flavor of smoothie she wanted? Yeah, I don't really think OP's the jerk here. I don't want to go into assuming and say oh, it's this or that. But it feels like there definitely is something going on here that OP maybe has to give the benefit of the doubt over. If anything, I think OP should just look it up online and go down the list of flavors on the menu. I mean, to be fair to OP, if you don't know what flavors she likes, you don't know what flavors she likes, and I don't think it should be an indictment on OP's character if they don't know the exact second go-to flavor their wife likes for smoothies. Where were the adults commented, not the jerk. This sounds like pregnancy hormones in action, lots of changes going on, and her tastes change accordingly. I would suggest a different approach. You went with the, I don't know, tell me approach. That puts pressure on her. You could try, let me open the menu and see if we can find something you like. The pickles and ice cream craving is not a myth. Pickles are a good source of electrolytes and ice cream has fat and calcium, things she needs. So be prepared for her to ask for strange combinations. When she does, go get them. She's working on making a healthy human and she needs the basic ingredients. Deja replied, "When I was pregnant with my first child, my brain would shut down whenever I got asked what I wanted. All I knew was I wanted to eat now, and I only knew what I didn't want. My husband would keep asking what I wanted, and I hated it so much, and he got frustrated that I wouldn't give him a straight answer. Being pregnant sucks for everyone involved." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, am I the jerk for hiding my ALS diagnosis from my grandpa? A year ago, I, 25-year-old male, was diagnosed with limb-onset ALS after a long struggle with experiencing foot drop and muscle weakness. For a few months, I hid my diagnosis from everyone until progression of the disease forced me to come clean. To be honest, I'm still coming to terms with this, and each day has been a living heck as I wake up not knowing what motor skills I'll lose next. I have always been fiercely independent and the protector of the people I love, so it kills me knowing that everyone who loves me, my girlfriend especially, now has to bear the burden of my illness. The one person I haven't told is my grandpa, who raised me and my brother until we were teens because my parents were at work all the time. He's the one who cared for me the most, who has literally watched me grow up. I've always promised to take care of and give him the best of everything because he sacrificed to give me as much of a happy childhood as he could. Ever since I was diagnosed, the thought of having to tell my grandpa that his grandson has an incurable degenerative disease has plagued me, and I don't think I can gather up the courage to tell him or face the fact that I can't fulfill my promise. He's nearing 70, and I want him to live as happily as possible without worrying about me. The other day, we met for a family dinner. I don't see my grandpa very often now, so before the dinner, I was adamant that my grandpa would not find out. My brother and girlfriend agreed to cover for me using a wheelchair by saying that I'd been injured playing soccer. Grandpa accepted the excuse and all seemed to be well until my cousin, who wasn't aware my grandpa didn't know, brought it up. As I expected, he was devastated and couldn't stop asking me why I didn't tell him. Later that night, the sudden emotional shock likely triggered his heart condition. He has a history of heart attacks. My grandpa's now in the hospital, and I haven't been able to stop crying. My brother is furious at my cousin for revealing my diagnosis, and even more so for not being apologetic, since she's insisting that it's my fault because I should have just been honest with my grandpa. She called me manipulative and a liar and said that it wasn't my place to decide whether grandpa could handle it or not. The guilt is eating me alive, but at the same time, the aftermath just tells me that I was right to hide it because the news absolutely crushed my grandpa. I don't know what to do anymore except to pray that my grandpa makes it through. Am I the jerk? Edit, thank you all for your responses, and especially to those who expressed things from my grandpa's perspective. Not sure how much this changes, but my cousin's husband saw this post, and now cousin is livid. My brother just got off a call with her, and apparently he did actually tell her not to say anything and let me take the lead. Just that she highly disagreed, so I guess this was her way of voicing her disagreement? I didn't know about this part, so I assumed benefit of the doubt that she didn't know. Again, appreciate everyone, and will hopefully be visiting my grandpa as soon as we get more news about his condition. So I think this is a very tough one to be able to say, oh, you're the jerk or you're not the jerk. I think the important thing to focus on here is OP didn't want to hurt anybody, and that's what they were trying to do by not telling their grandpa. Now, I definitely understand that that's far from the concept of did OP do the right thing by withholding that information. In that regard, ultimately, no, it's going to probably hurt more, especially with it advancing more, but I at least understand why OP did it. Madam Nitsalot commented, soft, you're the jerk. I think it's naive to think that the rest of your family will just never spill the secret, because unless no one knows, it's not a secret. Family always talks. I also think your grandpa deserved to hear it from you. That said, I understand the fear you have. You're in a no-win situation and unable to do a darn thing about it. If you can, seek counseling. Lean on your family. You don't have to be alone. Edit, forgot something. Go to him, explain why you were scared. I'm sure he'll understand, because he loves you. Our next story is, am I the jerk for wanting to leave my girlfriend over her new cat? Me, 24-year-old female, and my fiancé, 26-year-old female, have been dating for 4 years and moved in together to her house a year ago. To clarify, she comes from a wealthy family and her parents bought her the apartment. I have a conure whom I love and have been taking care of him since I was 14, and she let me bring him to her new place. And I promised to fully look after him and not involve her with his care. Other than minor complaints like the noise he makes, they've been getting along pretty well. The problem started 2 months ago when she started a conversation about potentially getting a cat. I told her my concerns regarding the danger the cat would cause to my bird. Our apartment is not very big, and conures love being everywhere around the house. After this, she agreed with me, and I thought it was over. A month later, she brings home a cat she picked up from a shelter without asking me first. I was surprised and couldn't give a proper reaction she was hoping for, and since it was her house, I decided to let it be. She promised she would take care of the cat and that it wouldn't interact with my bird. However, we had the cat for a month and I've been cleaning the litter and feeding her. The worst of all happened last week when I came home from work and found my fiancé watching TV while my bird's foot was bleeding in the bathroom. It was clear that the cat had caused it because the cat was in the room with him and tried to play with my bird. I was so upset over this, and even after he was treated by the vet, he still lost a finger and I haven't been able to let it go. My fiancé is acting as if I'm overreacting by the situation and is dismissing my feelings. Am I the jerk for rethinking our whole relationship and wanting the cat out of the house? Yeah, I think OP's not the jerk here. Ultimately, I think especially when OP wasn't a fan of getting the cat, and that's your fiancé, I mean, you're essentially consigning that person to caring for that cat. I feel like it's extremely unfair and honestly the most telling thing that their partner went to OP and said, look, you'll never have to care for this cat that I got without even asking you and letting you know. I'll take care of them, you'll never have to do anything. Like, even ignoring the fact that a month later, OP is the one caring for that cat. If OP married this person, there was inevitably going to be some crossover where OP had to care for that cat. Fields SN83 commented, oof, yeah, that's not okay at all. I'm a total cat lady and love them so much, but I also would never want my kitty to hurt another animal, which is why my girl is strictly indoors for one thing. The big issue here, to me, she didn't even discuss with you first, or rather y'all did discuss it, and then she went and got a cat anyway. That is disrespectful and means she doesn't actually care about your preferences. It doesn't matter that her or her family own the place. If you live together with a partner, you treat each other as equals. Well, even if you don't live together, so this is really crappy. She wasn't concerned at all about your bird's injury. That's dismissive and cruel in my opinion. Even if she didn't care about the bird, which would be crappy anyway, at the very least, she should care because you care and you are her partner. Honestly, she doesn't sound like girlfriend or partner material, and if I were in such a situation, I wouldn't stick around. I hate to say that and be the typical Reddit responder, but oh well. OP responded to that comment and wrote, "With the way she was acting, I started to doubt my reaction to the whole situation a little and even blamed myself regarding this. If I had just come home earlier, perhaps none of this would have happened, my bird would have been fine, and our relationship would not have been damaged in this way. And of course, I feel cruel for wanting the cat out of the house, but I do recognize that this situation is not normal, and I'm ignoring the red flags." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to split the check with my brother on Mother's Day? This past Mother's Day, I, male 34, was the only person available on the actual date of Mother's Day, as my older and younger brothers, 36 and 28, were going to be doing stuff with their families, and then we would do something with the entire family the following Thursday. So on Sunday, my dad, my mom, and I went to a local Mexican restaurant, and I took care of the bill, which came out to $54. Then on Thursday, we went to my mom's favorite restaurant. I was one of the first to arrive, and I sat down with the mindset of trying to sit next to my younger brother so we could talk. But I was told by my mom to sit on the other side of the table so that my brothers and their families could sit together, which resulted in me sitting next to my two nephews. After dinner, my younger brother called from across the table. First time he spoke to me the entire night and said, "How do you want to split it?" Here's where I might be the jerk. When he said that, the first thing I said was, "I already took mom out on Sunday." He kind of just stared at me confused, so I repeated, "I already took mom out Sunday and paid $54. He just continued to stare at me and I didn't say anything back. Then I went to the restaurant while he took care of the bill on the tablet thing. Here's the thing, if I was told beforehand that we were going to split the bill, I would have been fine with it. But to tell me when the check comes and it be the first and only thing you say to me the entire night rubbed me the wrong way. So, am I the jerk? At the restaurant, the waiter asked my father if it was going to be one check or separate. I waited to see what he said, but he said one check. So I wasn't expecting to pay anything. So I can't pretend to know anything about this family and how they've historically operated when it comes to paying the check. The thing is, if I'm going to an event that I was invited to or was a part of, I would go certainly hoping that somebody would want to cover my share of the bill, but I wouldn't go expecting that somebody else is definitely going to pick up my tab. I guess historically there is etiquette of if somebody invites you out, generally that person is the one that pays the bill or something. But I think it's just erroneous to go to this place, order some food, and expect that somebody else is going to pay your share of the bill just because you took mom out the other day. Lucky Volume 3819 commented, "So you showed up for a Mother's Day dinner and expected someone else to treat you? At 34 years old? You didn't even contribute your portion of the bill or offer? You assuming someone else would pay for you is arguably more tacky than not discussing the splitting of the bill beforehand. And you obviously did mind since you fabricated silly reasons not to pony up. You're the jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for apologizing for a dad fight at my kid's birthday? My 27-year-old male, girlfriend 31-year-old female is divorced. Amicably, he came out as gay, and I've all but moved in with her and her son, who I'll call Jason, 11-year-old male. We've been dating for about a year, known each other for longer than that, and I've been picking up her kid after soccer while she's at her job late some days. Pediatric dentist. He isn't interested in calling me dad, but he does call me dude. He says it sounds like dad, but isn't dad because I'm just a dude. He's a great kid and I love him dearly. Jason's 11th birthday party was this past week, and my girlfriend's father pulled me aside and asked me if I would stay out of their family photos. A tradition they've been doing every year since he was born, where they take the picture in the same group pose so they can all line up in their album. Now, I thought I would be real funny and photobomb this with a funny face and a peace sign, and while Jason and I were both giggling afterward, my father-in-law was not. They did get the family photo later, even after I went and asked him more formally if I could be in it. I was declined. And I have to say, it did kind of get under my skin a bit. I'd pretty much been living with them for some time now, and it really stung to be formally uninvited from a family tradition centered around my kid. This ended up hitting me harder than I expected, honestly, and I was morose and silent throughout the rest of the party. Now, her dad seemed like a really good guy. However, he was not at all happy with me now. He pulled me out to the back porch and yelled at me about how I was so disrespectful to family tradition that started when my girlfriend's mother was still alive. She passed away during COVID, and when her sister, older, adopted when she was a teenager, moved to Germany a few years ago, was living with them. I had not been aware of the severity of the situation and started crying and apologizing. It was loud, and the neighbors 100% heard it. It's at this point my girlfriend comes out and sees her dad yelling at me and me crying. She was very angry at him for how he was treating me behind her back, and he ended up leaving in a huff. She was very mad at him, but also at me for starting a scene over something that she thought was so silly. This is my question. I wanted to call him to apologize for the way I acted. My girlfriend, however, when I asked for his phone number, didn't want me to. She said I didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't know the situation at the time, and that he needed to have someone not bend over backwards for forgiveness just because of a disagreement. I understand that she feels like that, but her dad already isn't 100% on me. I work at a weed shop, and he's given me stern warnings before about the kind of long-term responsibility he expects from me if I'm going to be his grandkid's parent. I don't want to go behind my girlfriend's back when she's expressly told me not to apologize. So I guess I have to ask, am I the jerk for still planning to? Edit, alright, this one is on me. There's a critical piece of information I seem to have neglected to have explained properly. We've been friends for 7 years, including before she was divorced. I was in contact with her when it happened, and I've known Jason personally for a similar amount of time. We've only been officially dating since last September. She's also spoken to me once before about getting married. This is scary as freak to me, so to be perfectly honest, I gave her kind of a non-committal non-answer, I admit, but I'm not some weird stranger digging into someone's family. So personally, with all of OP's explained backstory, I'm gonna say that OP is the jerk. The bottom line is, OP isn't even married to her. He hasn't adopted this kid. The kid wants to call you dude instead of dad, so is it really fair for OP to say, with my kid? OP kind of inserted themselves and made something that was about that segment of the family all about OP. Now, I think the apologizing thing is kind of separate to the main thing. I don't think OP would be a jerk if they want to reach out and apologize. In fact, I feel kind of disappointed that OP's partner is going to such lengths to prevent them from trying to just reach out and apologize. Like, what's wrong with OP reaching out and saying, look, I'm sorry. If OP can't do that without stirring the father-in-law up enough to cause more fireworks, I think that says a lot more about the father-in-law than it does OP. SF Zen commented, "You're the jerk." Dude, there's a lot to unpack here. You've been dating this woman for a year, and you say her 11-year-old son isn't interested in calling you dad, as if it would be remotely reasonable for him to consider calling you dad. You're 16 years older than him, and you've been around for a year. Then you try and force your way into family photos after specifically being asked not to. And then you somehow don't manage to take the hint, and you ask to be included after you were specifically asked to stay out of it, and then when you're confronted about it, you start loudly crying. I can understand wanting to call later and apologize, but man, it sounds like your girlfriend just wants you to drop it and stop making the situation worse. I'm going to be very blunt here and say that you should consider talking to a therapist or something, because it seems like your idea of what your relationship with your girlfriend and her family is might not be in line with reality. At the very least, you need to have a real talk with your girlfriend about your role in her son's life this early on. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that he should be paying for his own items on the $4,000 Disney trip I surprised him with? Hi Reddit. I, 23-year-old female, feel as though I'm seeing a new ugly side of my boyfriend, 24-year-old male of 3 years, and it's due to something that was supposed to be a dream trip. Our dream trip has always been Disney World. I got a promotion at work a few months ago, and since then, he's been making all these small jokes that I'm his sugar mama. I laughed them off, but I was a bit taken aback. Trying to do something special for us, I planned and booked a surprise birthday trip in secret. I paid for all of it, the flights, resort, park tickets. It cost me nearly $4,000, which I saved up for months. When I surprised him, he was elated. The trip is 3 weeks away. In the meantime, he's been sending me photos of $100+ souvenirs and talking nonstop about a very expensive steakhouse that he's insisting we eat at. I started having a bad feeling. Last night, I kindly brought up budgeting for extras. I let him know that since I had the major trip covered as his gift, we would need to budget for our own personal funds for incidentals and extra food. He instantly got cold. He told me, "Are you kidding? I thought the whole purpose you were paying was so that we could finally do it right. You know I don't have that kind of money." I informed him that I'd spent thousands already on this gift and I couldn't finance everything. That's when he got furious. He accused me of attempting to make him guilty. He said that I was dangling the trip in front of him to make him feel poor because I had the better job now. He said that I was holding the trip over his head and the surprise was controlling and manipulative to him now. I'm just shocked. He's distorted me trying to do something nice for him into a way that makes me feel like a villain. I've been saving for months so we can make great memories, and he's turned it into an attack on my character. Now, I don't just fear this holiday, I'm doubting our relationship. Am I the jerk for expecting him to be a financial partner on the fun extras? Or are these the giant red flags I think they are? So first of all, I don't think OP's the jerk. That said, I would be a little bit unsure about outright expecting him to be able to pay for the fun extras, depending on what the fun extras are. It sounds to me like the problem is being made because he wants to do something that isn't affordable to him. Now, if this guy is straight up broke and he has no money whatsoever to pay for anything, maybe there's a conversation to be had there, but it doesn't really sound like that's what's being said. Petals of Rose 1956 commented, "Cancel him, not the trip. Tell him he's not going. Maybe take your mother?" OP responded commenting, "I've really been considering this, but part of me also hopes it can work out." Our next story is, am I the jerk for using internet slang and accidentally hurting someone's feelings? For context, I, 25-year-old male, am autistic and I struggle with social cues, but I try my best to be aware. We had a get-together with some family. My uncle's boyfriend, 55-year-old male, was there, who we'll call Brett. We often get along and I enjoy chatting because there's good banter, ribbing, and debate. Today, we were talking about books. At one point, he said something like, "I like books, but I don't like to read." To which I jokingly replied, "But that's how books work," as banter. Later, he questioned my wife and I rereading books, which he thought was weird. While asking why he doesn't reread books, he basically said it's because it takes him forever. I jokingly said, "Sounds like a skill issue." He went off on me publicly and said that was a runty thing to say and that I called him stupid to his face. I didn't think he was serious, but after realizing he was offended, I tried to explain and apologize. I told him I didn't mean to be hurtful and that skill issue was internet speak, but Brett said that my intention didn't matter and soon left the room. Later, I asked Brett if we could talk. I said I was sorry what I said hurt him and I never meant to do that. I also said his response went too far, even though I got where it came from. He doubled down, saying he would do it again. He again said my intention was irrelevant. I called out that on past occasions, he's called my wife's eating habits disgusting, made remarks about how weird we are, and more. He said those were jokes and didn't acknowledge the hypocrisy when I pointed it out and said that I shouldn't use logic here. All this time, I'm still apologetic and said that I would just like to leave this behind us if we can. He took his time to point out that apparently this wasn't the first time I'd said something that offended him, and claimed that I treat him like the help simply because I don't always say hi to him, even though I'll have full conversations with him. I said that he should have told me because how could I know, especially given my autism, which he knows I have. He acted like I was making excuses, and I clarified that it's not an excuse, simply a likely contributing factor that I can't help. I also told him that if it happens again, to come tell me directly and we can deal with it. And if he wants me to cut the banter and ribbing when we talk, then I will. He claimed, and now I want him to censor me so he's the bad guy. I realized I wasn't getting anywhere, so I ended by apologizing again, acknowledging that I'll probably mess up in the future, but I'll work on it. And I'd like to move past this and be cordial. He begrudgingly accepted. On the drive home, I talked with my wife, and she agreed that while my initial comment was a bit out of line, which I can see now, the situation escalated because of his remarks. I recapped how the talk went, and she agreed that he was being stubborn and hypocritical. So, Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk. Honestly, it sounds like him not being able to see the hypocrisy is a skill issue. To be fair though, to OP, that's definitely like the phrase you say with all of your friends in like a Discord voice chat over time, and it just kind of loses the meaning and impact that somebody who has no idea about the phrase would weigh into it. Such Machine 2417 commented, "A grown man being mad because he isn't literate and you made a passing jab about it? Not the jerk. Maybe he should read more books." Boo Hogpad replied, "But why would he need to read books? Are you calling him stupid?" Our next story is, am I the jerk for not paying my sister's parking tickets? For context, I, 24-year-old male, have been living with my grandma for 6 years. I've paid rent since I started living there, helping around the house, took care of her pets when my grandma's gone. My sister, 25-year-old female, who has not paid rent one time since she moved in a few months ago, has convinced my grandma that she needs the parking spot because her car is easier to steal. I told my grandma that when my sister starts paying rent, she can have the space, but as far as I know, she's not pitched in a single cent. She refuses to park out on the road where she won't get a ticket because she's worried her car will get stolen. I told her and my grandma multiple times if she wants the spot, she can ask me, and as long as she picks me up from the road, then I'm fine with giving up the parking spot. She refuses to ask me and thus gets tickets because she won't park on the street. My mom just messaged me and said that it's my responsibility to pay the tickets she's gotten since I keep taking the parking spot. My sister has a reasonable job, makes decent money, and can pay the tickets, along with paying rent to my grandma, but she hasn't. I think not paying the parking tickets is reasonable, but my mom insists on coddling my older sister and blaming other people for her mistakes. Am I the jerk here? OP is 1,000,000% not the jerk here, and I will personally shun OP forever if they go and pay any of those tickets. Absolutely not. Effective Olive 8420 commented, "Not the jerk. Your mother obviously favors your sister. Do not give her any chances to have that spot." Our next story is, would I be the jerk for exposing my husband is cheating with his first cousin? I, female 40, have been suspicious since last October about how close my husband, male 43, and his first cousin, female 24, have become. I'm frequently away abroad for work, and they always manage to ensure they spend as much time with one another alone. Despite living in different countries, she often spends weeks and weeks at our house, and he spends all of his money on funding their time together as she's unable to hold down a job, yet disappears as soon as I arrive back in the country. They spend every waking hour messaging and video calling each other. Often, my husband tries his hardest to hide their communication frequency. I voiced my concerns multiple times and got gaslighted into thinking I was sick and crazy for even thinking this. However, I was made aware that his mom also had worries about how close they had become, though she never spoke to me about this or stepped in at any point to put a stop to any potential inappropriateness. Since summer last year, our marriage has deteriorated to a point where emotional, financial, and physical abuse now lives, and I'm prepared to immediately leave him regardless of this possible inappropriate relationship with his cousin. I cannot live in such a dangerous and cruel marriage. However, as I prepared my exit strategy, this needs to be planned carefully as we live in his country and not mine, and I'm not fluent in his language, I had the opportunity to check his phone, something I had never done before, but my gut instinct told me to look. I found a lot of inappropriate communication between them, planning how they'll next be together, discussing my next dates I'll be out of the country, and making sexual references. There is now no doubt that my gut instinct was correct all along. I took photos of all of their communication. I have a flight plan to leave permanently coming up, and I plan on leaving behind a farewell gift to them by sending all of his family members the photos to expose their disgusting behavior. FYI, his country is against cousins and sexual relations, so this likely will blow up his whole life. Am I doing the right thing by sharing the knowledge with his family? I've always cared for his family, but I'll never see them again regardless, as I'm already leaving for good. Do I go out with a bang and expose my lying, disgusting, abusive husband? So, depending on where OP lives and their exit strategy, I would say you certainly could, and especially so if it makes you feel better yourself, but only if there's not greater consequences that can loop around and be tied to it. I feel like I've just heard a horror story or two of people who try to get out of situations like these and get like locked down. And like legally and just how the country works, there's just no way for these people to escape. Tina Tuna commented, "The 19 years age difference would be enough for me to do it. Go ahead and tell them. Let the family know that your husband has obviously been grooming this person for a very long time too. Not the jerk. Enjoy your new life. You deserve it." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.